Hi guys, good evening. It is Ilangovan. It's me, Ilangovan, online axi.com person for teaching zoology. So we started the molecular basis of inheritance, something about how far the DNA is responsible for the transmission of characters, the molecular structure, etc. So in that one, we also started how does the DNA replicate? What is the actual phenomenon that is taking place or the process? The duplication of one DNA into just actually two or many like that. That process is called replication process. So the multiplication of DNA occurs normally during the S phase of what is called the cell cycle in the interphase stage. Now, for replication to be started, we need origin of replication, a point where the replication starts. So, in the case of bacterial chromosome, or in the case of, for example, prokaryotic DNA, there is only one origin of replication. That is why we can get what is called a theta structure. But in the case of eukaryotes, there is a process of formation of replication fork. So we see now already the different types of enzymes forming a complex what is called replisome on the DNA at the site of replication. So what do you mean by a replication fork? So normally it is a structure that is formed during DNA replication. So what will happen? We have the two strands of DNA which are normally held together by means of the hydrogen bonds. Now the enzyme helicase, what we have seen the function. This enzyme creates normally the replication force. How? By breaking the hydrogen bonds between the two complementary bases of the two double helical DNA. So, the replication fork is normally created by the enzyme helicase responsible for breaking the hydrogen bonds, the one which is normally holding the two DNA strands together. As a result, what will happen? Suppose we have the two strands. Because of the actually unwinding of the DNA strands, with the effect of helicase enzyme, just we have formed a structure having two branching prongs. Now this is prong having two branching prongs, and this structure is actually called as a replication fork. And now each prong is now made up of a single DNA strand. So because of the effect of helicase enzyme, unwinding of the two strands occurs. As a result, we have formed a replication fork, a structure having two branching prongs, and each one is made up of a single strand of DNA. Now, this prong may be left and that one may be right like that. We have each strand, normally each prong is being represented by one strand of DNA, which is the template for the synthesis of new strand. So we have the two strands like this. They get separated. I'll show the picture later. This is normally one prong. This is another prong. And each prong or each one or each strand is acting as a template for the synthesis of new strand. So normally we have formed actually the synthesis of the new strands in two ways. One strand is formed continuous. So for example like this, one strand is formed continuous. Then another strand is normally formed. So these are the two strands. We have the prongs and each one is acting as a template. Maybe for example, this is 5 dash 3 dash and this one is 3 dash and 5 dash 8. So this one is acting as this, just what is called as a template, a 5 dash 3 dash template. And this one is called as 3 dash 5 dash template. So in one of the strands, you know that one, actually the DNA is being synthesized continuously. Now, for example, here the DNA synthesis occurs continuously. In another strand, so you see that one the DNA synthesis takes place discontinuously in this direction and here in this direction. So the strand, the one which is being synthesized continuously is called as a leading strand. Now this is the leading strand. The another strand which is being formed discontinuously is called as the lagging strand. So we have two strands, lagging strand, and this one is called as a leading strand. So two strands being synthesized. One strand being synthesized discontinuously, what is called the lagging strand. Another strand is synthesized continuously, the one called as the leading strand. Now, so you see that one. So these two strands, normally the two prongs act as a template for leading and then lagging strands. So there are two strands which are being separated. Each one is acting as a template. One strand is called as a template strand for synthesizing a continuous DNA molecule, a DNA strand. That is called as the leading strand. Another strand being synthesized discontinuously, and that is called as a lagging strand. So for these two strands being synthesized or to be synthesized, we have the templates. So accordingly, what is the type of active strand being synthesized? The templates are named so. For example, they may be referred as a leading strand template. Leading strand template. So now once again, I'm drawing the diagram. This is an example of 5 dash and 3 dash end, and this is 3 dash end, and this is 5 dash end. Now, just actually, the template may be referred as leading strand template. Now, this is the leading strand template. Here, the DNA being synthesized in this direction continuously. The leading strand template is normally called as 3 dash to 5 dash direction. 3 dash to 5 dash. This templates, the one which is synthesizing continuously the strand, is called as the leading strand. The template for this one is called 3 dash to 5 dash strand template. Now, starting with 3 dash, ending with 5 dash. So here the DNA being synthesized continuously. So the templates may be referred as a leading strand template, the one responsible for the synthesis of actually a strand continuously. And the template normally runs in the direction of 3 dash and 5 dash. And the other one here, actually the DNA being synthesized discontinuously. Discontinuously. So I see that one. So in this case, we have the template for this one is 5 dash 3 dash. This is the template. The lagging strand template is 5 dash 3 dash. Now this is the template for the synthesis of a strand, the one which is being synthesized discontinuously. So the template for the lagging strand is called 5 dash to 3 dash strand, and the template for the leading strand is called actually 3 dash to 5 dash template strand. So it is a way normally the DNA being synthesized. We'll discuss in detail after. So you know that one either during transcription process or the synthesis of what is called protein. For example, the formation of messenger RNA or the formation of DNA during replication. In all cases, the synthesis of either DNA or the synthesis of RNA or even the formation of protein, in all cases, the direction of synthesis is always in 5 dash 3 dash direction. The starting point is 5 dash, the ending point is 3 dash. So DNA replication always proceeds in 5 dash 3 dash direction. Even if you are taking the synthesis of mRNA during transcription process, it also occurs in the direction of 5 dash 3 dash direction. Similarly, even if you are taking the translation process, the formation of protein after the transcription has been completed, that also occurs only in 5 dash 3 dash direction. This is a common procedure, a universal structure, a universal phenomenon. The synthesis of either DNA or mRNA or the formation of proteins all happen to occur only by means of this direction. So that is why I mentioned here, DNA is always synthesized in 5 dash 3 dash direction. Not only DNA synthesis, but also mRNA synthesis, and also, for example, the protein synthesis all happens to occur mainly in this direction of 5 dash 3 dash. Here we'll see about the synthesis of DNA. In the forthcoming classes, we'll see about the synthesis of mRNA, namely the transcription process, and also the formation of proteins, namely the translation process. Now, actually, if we're taking the leading strand and the lagging strand in a DNA molecule, the leading strand template and the lagging strand templates, these two are normally oriented in opposite direction like this. I'll show the picture later. Suppose I am taking 5 dash, this one 3 dash, or here we have 3 dash, 5 dash like that. So 3 dash and 5 dash. So you also represent, for example, here 5 dash and 3 dash, and this one 3 dash and 5 dash. So this is the nature of the strand. And here this one forms a template, this one. And this is normally we can say 5 dash 3 dash template. And this one is called 5 dash 3 dash template in this direction. So we can have, or we can say the template 3 dash to 5 dash or 5 dash to 3 dash like that. So this is one of the template strands running in the direction of 5 dash 3 dash. And this is another template running in the direction of 3 dash 5 dash. Now this is the template for the synthesis of what is called a lagging strand. See that one, it's being synthesized in this direction. So the lagging strand template is nothing but 5 dash 3 dash. The leading strand template is nothing but what is called 3 dash 5 dash. Now this is actually 3 dash 5 dash, but the synthesis occurs towards this direction. See that one, the synthesis of lagging strand occurs towards the terminus, and the synthesis of leading strand occurs towards the replication fork. Now this is the point of replication fork. So you see that one, the leading and lagging strand templates normally oriented in opposite directions. So this is the template 5 dash 3 dash, and this is the template 3 dash 5 dash. So these are all oriented in opposite directions, what is called at the replication fork. So the synthesis of lagging strand always occurs just opposite to the direction of growing replication fork. You see that one, the synthesis of leading strand occurs towards the replication fork. This is a growing replication fork. Gradually the replication fork is extending. So the leading strand synthesis occurs towards the growing replication fork, and the synthesis of the lagging strand always occurs opposite to the growing replication fork. So it is away from the replication fork, and this one is towards the replication fork. So you must bear in mind that the synthesis of continuous strand or leading strand always occurs towards the replication fork, and the synthesis of lagging strand or discontinuous strand always occurs opposite to the growing replication fork or away from the replication fork. So the leading and lagging strand templates are, this is because the two strands are oriented in opposite direction. See that one, this is the leading strand template 3 dash 5 dash, and this is what is called actually the lagging strand template. This is 5 dash 3 dash. So these two are oriented in opposite direction. If you remember this one, if you analyze these two, 3 dash 5 dash, and this is 5 dash 3 dash. That is why the synthesis of both the strands are taking place in opposite directions. In opposite direction, one is moving towards the replication fork, another one is away from the replication fork. Particularly, the lagging strand is being synthesized just opposite to the direction of this growing replication fork, whereas the leading strand is always synthesized towards the replication fork. Remember that one. Now here is a picture. See a simple picture showing the replication fork. Now this area is the replication fork, and this is the point of replication fork. So the hydrogen bonding being broken by the helicase enzyme, that is resulting in the formation of what is called the replication fork. Now here represented just with two prongs. One prong is acting as a template for the synthesis of what is called a lagging strand. Another one is actually acting as a template for the synthesis of what is called the leading strand. Now this is a template. This is a new strand which is being synthesized continuously. This is a new strand which is synthesized discontinuously. The blue lines represent what is called as a template. Now this is the template running in 3 dash and 5 dash direction. This is a template 3 dash 5 dash direction, and that is the template for the synthesis of leading strand. You see the arrow mark, it is growing towards the replication. Then on the other hand, you see that one, this is what we call this one the lagging strand template running in 5 dash 3 dash direction. So the template strand for the continuous synthesis of DNA is 3 dash and 5 dash, and whereas the template for the synthesis of what is called the discontinuous strand or the lagging strand is 5 dash 3 dash. See that one, the two strands are oppositely oriented. So also the synthesis of leading strand and the lagging strand, they are also oppositely oriented. So the synthesis of continuous strand is taking place towards the replication fork, the growing replication fork. The synthesis of discontinuous strand is always moving or growing away from the replication fork. This is what we have. Since the two strands are oppositely oriented, the synthesis of the two strands are also taking place in opposite directions. One is towards the replication fork, another one is away from the replication fork. The template strand for the continuous one is 3 dash 5 dash. The template strand for discontinuous one is 3 dash and 5 dash. This is what we have, 5 dash and 3 dash for the synthesis of lagging strand. Actually, that is the template strand is 5 dash 3 dash, and for leading strand 3 describers. Don't forget this one. So one is synthesis towards the replication fork, another one is synthesis away from the replication fork. Now, what are the other facts related to this one? Now, this is a clear picture showing how far the replication is taking place, what are the different components that are taking part in the process of replication. First, I would like to talk about the name of the enzyme. Now, this blue arrow mark indicates the enzyme helicase, the one responsible for breaking the hydrogen bonds between the complementary base pairs of the two strands, the complementary strands we can say. This is number one. Then number two, an RNA primer. You know that one, it's nothing but a stretch of RNA that is being normally laid down on the existing what is called the DNA, on the existing DNA with the help of an enzyme, what is called primase. The primase is nothing but actually a segment or stretch of RNA which is being normally synthesized on the existing DNA with the help of an enzyme primase. Then what is the role of this RNA primer? I mentioned earlier. Once again, I want to repeat that one. So the DNA polymerase cannot initiate the replication process. The DNA polymerase cannot have the capacity to initiate the polymerization process. And it has to be initiated only when a small stretch of RNA is laid down on the existing DNA, complementary to the existing DNA, with the help of enzyme primase. It is nothing but RNA polymerase. So once the primer has been laid down, it is an initial point from which only you have actually this RNA primer has free hydroxyl group. And from that actual hydroxyl group, the addition of what is called the DNA nucleotides occur. Nothing but what we can see, the polymerization process that result in the formation of stretch of DNA molecules. So the DNA polymerase has the ability of only extending the DNA molecule or involved in polymerization process, but not have the ability of initiating the DNA replication. It is always actually initiated only with the RNA primer, a stretch of RNA, the one which is being laid down on an existing DNA molecule with the help of RNA polymerase. It is called as a primase enzyme because it initiates the formation of primer. So the new nucleotides are added only by actually the DNA polymerase, leading to the formation of continuous segment. Later, to begin with, we have formed only the broken segments. We'll see later one by one. So this is the one which breaks the two strands, the hydrogen bonding between the two strands, maintaining actually the separate strands. Then, so the DNA polymerase is an enzyme responsible for the elongation process. Normally, the continuous strand can be synthesized with the help of an enzyme, DNA polymerase 3. Now, this is DNA polymerase 3. It is also called as delta polymerase. Delta polymerase enzyme is mainly responsible for the continuous synthesis of DNA on a template strand. Whereas the discontinuous synthesis of DNA occurs on another strand with the help of enzyme DNA polymerase alpha, or it is also called DNA polymerase 1. So, continuous synthesis of DNA takes place with the help of DNA polymerase 3, also called as delta polymerase, whereas the discontinuous synthesis of DNA occurs on another strand with the help of DNA polymerase 1, also called as alpha polymerase. Then, so we also have some enzymes what is called DNA primase, responsible for the formation of primer segment of DNA. That is, a DNA polymerase 1 has normally intrinsic activity. It also has the ability of somehow synthesizing DNA primer, just like what is called RNA primer. This is happening here and there in the case of some prokaryotes. You know that what you'll see later. Now, in addition to these enzymes, what I mentioned, that is what we call the helicase enzyme for the breakdown of the hydrogen bonds. DNA polymerase for actually the synthesis of or elongation or extension of DNA molecule as it happens by polymerization process. The enzyme is also called as polymerase. And this is the topoisomerase enzyme responsible for relaxing the supercoiling while unwinding the DNA molecule. So this is unwinding process happens because of a helicase enzyme. Now there is one enzyme normally ahead of this replication fork. Now this is the replication fork. So ahead of this replication fork, we have an enzyme what is called topoisomerase. It is responsible for relaxing the DNA double helix. That means it relieves the tension on the DNA double helix while we have the helicase enzyme is unwinding the two strands. So that is the one. So it's responsible for relaxing the supercoiling ahead of the replication fork, while the helicase enzyme is unwinding the two strands by breaking the hydrogen bondings. Then in addition to these enzymes, we will come to this later other enzymes later. Now we have there are certain proteins I mentioned, the additional factors responsible for that is the replication process. Here I represented one protein by name, single strand binding protein, SS, single strand binding protein, SSB. I'll show that one in the next picture. Now you see that one single strand binding protein. So this is a protein normally binding with what is called the single strand DNA. After the two strands have been actually separated by means of what is called the helicase enzyme. Then what is the role of this single strand binding protein, SSB? So it prevents the two strands from re-annealing. Once the two strands have been separated by means of helicase enzyme by breaking the hydrogen bondings, it doesn't allow the two strands to form once again the double helix. That means it maintains the single strand nature of the DNA after the two strands have been unwound with the help of what is called the helicase enzyme, not allowing the two strands from re-annealing. That is nothing but reunion, forming once again the double strand. So the reformation of the double stranded structure or double helical structure being normally separate, so being actually produced or being prevented, we can say, being prevented by the single stranded binding protein, doesn't allow the two strands once again to form a double helix. So it is being made. So the single stranded structure being maintained because of the single strand binding protein. These proteins now be bound with the single stranded structure formed after the helicase enzyme unwinding these two strands. Then another one sliding clamp, a clamp protein. Clamp. So this is nothing but a clamp protein which prevents the DNA polymerase enzyme from being separated from what is called the single strand structure. So it is responsible for preventing the dissociation of the DNA polymerase 3 from the just what is called the template DNA strand, because it is a must. It is necessary for the polymerization process. Further, the DNA polymerase 3 should be always in connection or in association with the template strand. That association is maintained by what is called another protein, what is called sliding clamp protein. It is normally bound with the DNA polymerase 3 and preventing the DNA polymerase 3 from its dissociation from the strand. So these are the two structures responsible for maintaining the single strand structure and also for the formation of what is called the new strand, what is called the polymerization process. Now what is happening normally? See that one. So I mentioned already one of the strands being synthesized continuously. The continuous synthesis of DNA occurs in one of the strands where the template is nothing but you see that one. This is the leading strand. We have the template 3 5 This is the template 3 5 And normally the proceedings of replication occurs continuously from the terminus towards the replication fork. It is always moves towards a growing replication fork. The synthesis occurs continuously. The template strand for that one is 3 and 5 Now the enzyme that is taking part in the replication process, the continuous replication or the formation of new strand continuously is nothing but DNA polymerase 3, also called as delta. Then in another strand where the template is 5 and 3 So this is the template 5 3 So you see that one. This is the 5 3 template where the DNA synthesis occurs discontinuously. Normally, The leading strand recruits or employs only one, just what we can see, one primer. So for the synthesis of actually continuous strand, we need only one primer. But for the synthesis of discontinuous strand, as we have several nicks, several broken segments, we need several actually primers, several RNA primers. So several RNA primers are actually laid down, and each one being synthesized by RNA primase enzyme. So once actually the primer has been produced, now here the DNA polymerase 1 elongates or extends this primed segments. This is what is called the primer, and this is what is called the primed segment. So the primed segments are united, or the primed segments are filled with what is called actually the DNA polymerase 1, which extends the DNA nucleotides, so that we have received a number of broken segments, and each broken segment is called Okazaki fragment. So we have found many broken DNA segments. From each primer, the DNA polymerase extends actually the broken segment, and all these segments are called simply what is called the Okazaki fragments. Later, all these fragments of Okazaki are united or joined together by means of enzyme DNA ligase. You know that one, the DNA ligase is acting as a base molecule, joining many Okazaki fragments, and finally you could see a continuous complete DNA strand, new strand has been synthesized. Though to begin with, actually we have formed the broken segments, thus forming what is called the lagging strand. Later on, the nicks, these are all the nicks or the break points or the broken nicks, they're all joined together with the help of enzyme DNA ligase. Ultimately, a continuous new DNA strand has been formed. Now, the direction of synthesis of lagging strand is towards the tip, that is away from the direction of growing replication. Whereas the synthesis of new strand is always towards the growing replication form. So this is a diagrammatic illustration showing how far actually the DNA synthesis occurs. Don't forget, one strand template DNA synthesis discontinuously, that is called the lagging strand. The direction template for this one is 5' 3'. In another one, DNA synthesis occurs continuously. The template strand for this one is 3' 5'. The leading strand is always synthesized towards the replication fork, and whereas the lagging strand is always synthesized towards what is called the terminus or away from the replication fork. There are certain factors, the binding proteins, the clamp protein, they're all taking part in maintaining certain structures during the replication process. So we'll go back to. So I mentioned already the leading and lagging templates are oppositely oriented, are oriented in opposite directions at the replication fork. So the synthesis of lagging strand always occurs opposite to the direction of synthesis of leading strand. We'll come back to the picture. This is what happens. We are taking actually one original DNA molecule. So you see that one after first generation we are getting what is called the replication. The replication is called as a semi-conservative method. I'll come later once again back to this. Now, what do you mean by leading strand? Once again, I will go back to. I mentioned already it is being synthesized in the same direction as. You see that one, the growing replication fork. It is always occurs in the same direction as the growing replication fork, towards the direction of replication fork. Then how is it actually formed? Now there is an enzyme, what I mentioned, polymerase 3. That enzyme reads the leading strand template. The leading strand template for the synthesis of leading strand is nothing but always is running in 3' 5' direction. And this polymerase enzyme, I mentioned already, nothing but actually our DNA polymerase 3 adds complementary nucleotides to the new strand on a continuous basis. So new strand being synthesized continuously because of the addition of the DNA nucleotides starting from the primer, what is called the RNA primer, continuously, and so that we have formed a continuous DNA strand. And what is the name of the DNA polymerase in the case of so? Actually, how is it done? What's the type of enzyme that is taking part in the synthesis of leading strand? The synthesis of leading strand enzymes actually differ in different types of organisms. In the case of prokaryotes, both, that is what is called the leading strand and the lagging strand, are being synthesized continuously by DNA polymerase 3 in both the cases. DNA polymerase 3 is responsible for the synthesis of both leading and then what is called the lagging strand. And what about the yeast? In the case of yeast, it is called epsilon, polymerase epsilon. And in the case of humans, it is also called polymerase epsilon. And in the case of mitochondria, also we have a DNA. The synthesis of mitochondrial DNA is independent of actual replication of genomic DNA, where you have the enzyme polymerase Y is taking part in the replication of mitochondrial DNA. So anyway, normally the leading strand is synthesized continuously, mainly with the help of DNA polymerase 3, both in the case of eukaryotes and also prokaryotes, but with a little name change. So I mentioned here DNA polymerase 3, in the case of humans it is polymerase epsilon, only a little bit change because of actually the organization of the protein enzyme. Now the lagging strand. So I mentioned already the direction of synthesis of lagging strand is always opposite to the direction of the growing replication fork. This is number one. And here the segment, actually the lagging strand is produced in not continuously. It is being synthesized in the form of short repeated segments. These short repeated segments are called Okazaki fragments after the name of the Japanese scientist. So it is being synthesized in the form of short repeated segments. The short repeated segments are called Okazaki fragments. Then what will happen? So on the lagging strand template, which is normally running in 5-3' direction, we have the enzyme many primase enzymes. The primase enzyme normally reads the template DNA and normally initiates the synthesis of a complementary short primer, complementary or short complementary primer. So first a primer has been laid down in the form of RNA, a small stretch of RNA by the primase enzyme. As we have many broken segments, in the discontinuous strand, we have the formation of many primers. And from each primer, we have the extension of the DNA nucleotides to form a new strand or broken segments with the help of DNA polymerase 1. So anyway, here normally what is happening on the lagging strand template, which is running in 5-3' direction, a primase enzyme reads the template DNA, the message, and then initiates the synthesis of a short complementary primer. Now, the DNA polymerase 1 normally extends these primary segments. Here, the primary segments are nothing but RNA having free hydroxyl group. The new DNA nucleotides are added to this free hydroxyl group by DNA polymerase 1. So now we have the broken fragment with 3 or 4 or 5 disc nucleotides with the primer, and these fragments are called Okazaki fragments. And now what will happen? Later the RNA primer, the stretch of RNA has been removed with the help of DNA polymerase 1 or with the help of what is called ribonuclease enzyme. They remove the RNA primer and that place is being replaced by the DNA nucleotides. To begin with, we need the help of the RNA primer. Once the DNA nucleotides have been added, at the end, the primer has been removed either by what is called RNA nuclease enzyme or even with the help of the DNA polymerase 1 itself. And later, what will happen? The fragments of DNA, I have mentioned, I have seen in the, I have shown in the diagram, many fragments, Okazaki fragments are there, and all these fragments are joined together with the help of a base molecule, namely the DNA ligase. Now, this the lagging strand synthesis is normally performed by polymerase 3 in the case of prokaryotes. In humans, it is polymerase alpha. That is nothing but polymerase 1. So we have actually the lagging strand synthesis is normally with the help of polymerase 3 in the case of prokaryotes, whereas in the case of humans as well as in the case of other eukaryotes, it is being done with the help of polymerase alpha or polymerase 1. That's why I said already, the synthesis of continuous DNA segment is with the help of polymerase 3 And the synthesis of discontinuous formation is with the help of DNA polymerase 1. Now, we have actually needed something for the removal of primer. So then only the primer actually, once the primer has been removed, then only we are adding the, or then only we are replacing the primer with the DNA nucleotides. Now, in the case of eukaryotes, the one which is responsible for the removal of primer is nothing but polymerase delta. The same one responsible for the synthesis. This is also called as proofreading, correction. Everything has been done only what is called the polymerase 3. So the delta polymerase is also called what is known as actually polymerase 3. But in the case of prokaryotes, it is being done by polymerase 1 because the polymerase 1 has dual activity. In the case of prokaryotes, it is doing dual functions. One, elongation of the DNA or the polymerization of DNA molecule. But it also has exonuclease activity by removing what is called the primer, which is formed by the primase enzyme. So it has dual functions in the case of prokaryotes. But in the case of eukaryotes, it is being done by polymerase 3. But in the case of prokaryotes, it is being done polymerase 1. Polymerase 1 is responsible not only for removing the primer, but also responsible for the extension of a DNA molecule or the DNA new strand, the growing strand, just actually mainly for the lagging strand. Now, what is late termination? So there are three events. What I mentioned, all events are enzymatically catalyzed and also coordinated. The first step we have the initiation process. The second step we have so far is really the extension process, the termination. Now, the process of termination of replication is brought up by two factors. Factor number one, termination sequence site in the DNA. This is what is called termination site sequence. So once the DNA replication has been completed, we have the exposure of what is called a site in DNA. That site is called termination site sequence. A specific sequence has been exposed. That sequence actually reacts or interacts with the second factor, what is called a protein. What is called a protein? It's also called DNA replication terminus site binding protein. Terminus replication, actually, that's what is called actually DNA replication terminus site binding protein. Because this protein binds with what is called the termination site sequence, so that what will happen, the process of replication has to be stopped physically. So one factor is the DNA sequence, that is called termination site sequence. Another one is a protein. That protein binds with this sequence. Once the protein is normally bound with this what is called a sequence, the termination site sequence DNA, automatically just the process of replication has been stopped physically. Now we have different names also for this what is called the protein which is taking part in the termination process. Simply in the case of bacteria, it is called DNA replication terminus site protein or simply TER protein, T or protein. So the protein which binds with normally the DNA sequence to stop the replication process in prokaryotes like bacteria is called DNA replication terminus site binding protein or simply it is called STER protein. The same name is also applicable for eukaryotes also because there also we have the physical interaction between the termination site sequence of DNA and the protein, which are aptly responsible for the two events together, or not two events, two factors with one event, the binding process, which stops the replication process physically. So anyway, the replication process comes to end because of the interaction between the DNA sequence and what is called the protein, both bound together and physically stop the process of replication. The name of the binding protein in the case of bacteria is called DNA replication terminus site binding protein or TER protein, a specific sequence of DNA. Now, so far you have seen actually the replication process. So I represent the pictures also what replication is taking place in one direction, that is we have continuously, in another direction it is discontinuously. We can have both leading and lagging strands, and finally we have received one DNA molecule has been converted to two DNA molecules after the broken segments on the lagging strand have been united to form a continuous strand. Now some facts related to DNA. So we have also DNA molecule in the case of chloroplast and mitochondria. Hence, these two organelles also considered as simply semi-autonomous organ. There also the DNA undergoes replication process, but the process of replication in these two organelles is independent of what is called the genomic replication happening in the main genome. So here there is one process by which the replication occurs. The name of the process by which the replication occurs in these two DNA molecules of chloroplast and mitochondria is called D-loop replication. Then, so if you are taking E. coli, you already seen the number of base pairs. You have 4.6 into 10 power 6 base pairs. The just actually the time duration, the time taken for the complete replication of such base pair DNA is about 38 minutes. So in E. coli, the replication of the entire DNA has been completed nearly within 38 minutes. Then what is the rate of formation? What is the rate of polymerization process? If it happens within 38 minutes, then how many base pairs are added or how many base pairs are polymerized in a second? Now the average rate of polymerization in the case of E. coli, such E. coli having 4.6 10 power 6 into 10 power 6 base pairs, the rate of polymerization is about 200 base pairs per second. That means in a second, 200 base pairs are polymerized or united together to form what is called a strand of DNA. That's the rate of formation and the rate of polymerization. 200 base pairs are added in a second so that we can receive a polymer of 200 base pairs in a second. That is the rate of polymerization. Then some facts. Suppose during replication process, any mistake occurs, the results always mutation. That is what is called error. I mentioned the proofreading, and also actually the proofreading is performed mainly by the DNA polymerase. That is why we have the rate of mutation in the case of DNA is very least. So it is error is always just occurs, but the frequency of formation of error is the least. This is because of the proofreading ability of DNA polymerase. So any mistake during replication will result in mutation. But actually, the replication process is a high energy, expensive process. So that's why I mentioned here energetically replication is a highly expensive process, a very expensive process. The energy for replication process normally comes from GTP, guanosine triphosphate, or simply what is called a deoxyribonucleoside triphosphate. It is a deoxyribonucleoside triphosphate. Now, this deoxyribonucleoside triphosphate serves as dual function. It provides a substrate, for example, the guanine or guanosine, as a complementary base during polymerization. So, it provides a substrate or it acts as a substrate as well as it is a source of energy for the replication process. So anyway, this deoxyribonucleoside triphosphate, here I have given this guanosine triphosphate mostly. This is a triphosphate, a guanosine nucleoside, and this one acts as a substrate as well as providing energy for the replication process to take place. So it has dual functions. Now, we know that one the process of replication is a semi-conservative method because you see that one after the replication process has been completed. If you are taking the daughter molecule, the daughter DNA molecule, out of the two strands, one strand is the parallel strand, what I mentioned earlier. Another strand is a newly synthesized one. As one of the parallel strands normally has been conserved, the process called semi-conservative method. So there is an experimental proof for this one. Two persons conducted this experiment, Matthew Michelson and Franklin Straub. They conducted experiments in 1958 to support the hypothesis that the DNA replication is semi-conservative. So DNA replication is semi-conservative. That was experimentally proved by these two persons in 1958, Matthew Michelson and Franklin Straub. And this experiment is considered the most beautiful experiment of biology because the fact of semi-conservative method, half of the characters have been transmitted, half of the characters being preserved. And all these actually came to light because of the experimental proof of these two persons. That's why this experiment is considered the most beautiful experiment in biology. Then what they did? What is the actual practice? So this experiment normally consists of the following steps. So they have taken the E. coli bacterium and cultured the E. coli bacterium in a medium, the one which contains ammonium chloride with heavy nitrate. Ammonium chloride medium with heavy nitrate. This heavy nitrogen is actually just a N50. It is normally a heavy isotope, but it is not radioactive. This is only isotope. Normally, most of the isotopes are radioactive, but this one is not radioactive. So they culture the bacteria, E. coli bacterium in a medium, the one which contains ammonium chloride with heavy nitrogen. The heavy nitrogen is actually N50, and but it is only an isotope, but not a radioactive. And what was the result? The result was once actually the bacterium was cultured in a medium of N50. The N15, the heavy nitrogen, was incorporated in the DNA molecule. Because they are utilizing the DNA, they are utilizing what is called nitrogen for the formation of the nitrogenous compounds like purine and pyrimidine. So that is why the nitrogen has been incorporated in the DNA. Now the DNA formed as a result of culturing a bacteria contains N15 in its bases, the nitrogenous bases. Then later they actually, how would they normally distinguish this DNA molecule with the heavy nitrogen from the normal light DNA? So normally the heavy DNA molecule could be separated or actually differentiated. How? From the normal DNA. How? By centrifugation method on a medium, namely the cesium chloride. By means of actually cesium chloride density gradient method, by means of centrifugation method, by spinning them, and they were able to just isolate, they were able to distinguish or differentiate the heavy DNA molecule from the normal light DNA molecule. I am using the word heavy DNA, the one which contains N15 in it, and the light DNA or the normal DNA, the one which contains N14, the normal DNA with N14, the heavy DNA with N15. Then step number 2. So now all the cells with the DNA with heavy nitrogen. Now they transferred these bacterial cells into a medium which contains ammonium chloride with light nitrogen. Ammonium chloride, that is N40. The medium contains N40. So here there is no N50. We have only N40. So we have the provision of incorporation only N14 only. There is no N15 that is to be incorporated in the DNA which is going to be synthesized. Now the cells are allowed to divide. So they took the samples at various definite intervals. What for? Once the cells are undergoing multiplication at definite intervals of that is 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, and 80 minutes, and so on. So they took samples at various definite intervals when the cells are multiplying after 20 minutes, after 40 minutes, after 60 minutes, after 80 minutes, and extracted the DNA molecule from these samples. And now, so how they separate? So the various samples are separated once again by centrifugation. You know that one on cesium chloride gradient in order to just actually to measure the densities of DNA. So the method adapted is nothing but centrifugation method on cesium chloride density gradient. So by using that one, they were able to isolate, they were able to know whether the DNA was heavy or whether the DNA was light or whether the DNA was in between. That is what we can say the hybrid DNA. So a normal DNA contains N14, a heavy DNA contains N15 nitrogen. We also formed in some actually that is what is called the generations with the hybrid DNA. A hybrid DNA is a one having one strand with N14, another strand with N15, just actually the DNA molecule. So that is the reason why we are calling that one hybrid. So heavy DNA with N15, light DNA or normal DNA with N14, a hybrid DNA having one strand with N14 and another strand with N15. So what will happen? What was the result? So now the DNA they extract from the culture. When? After one generation. One generation. So one generation after transferring what is called the cells from N15 to N14. So after the cells have been transferred from N15 to N14 after one generation, then they came to know that all the DNA formed just actually only a hybrid DNA with intermediate density. So no light DNA, no heavy DNA, only hybrid DNA. Because in the medium, for the formation, suppose this is actually strand, strand A, strand B. These are all called the parallel strand. This one with N15, this also with N15. Now, once after first generation, they received all the DNA molecules. Now the A strand, I'll take this one. So A strand and B strand, and both are having N15 nitrogen. N15 nitrogen. So after one generation after they have been transferred to N14. Now we have formed two DNA molecules. Number of DNA molecules 2. Now this A strand can synthesize B because it is a template, a parallel strand. Now this is a new strand. Now this B strand can synthesize A. So these are all the newly formed strands. And A, the old strand. Now this is the parallel strand. This is the parallel strand. These two are the newly synthesized strands. Now in the case of this A, we have N15. In the case of B, here also N15, because these two are the parallel strands having N15. Now the newly formed strands have, that is, this is N14, this is also having N14. The reason for that one, there are no N15 nitrogen or heavy nitrogen in the medium. The cells have to make use of only the light nitrogen, or we can say normal nitrogen N14 from the medium. They are using that one for the synthesis of the purines and pyrimidines, that is adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. So this is the parallel strand. It is acting as a template for the synthesis of new strand, but this new strand has N14. And this one just actually the parallel strand, which is using the nitrogen available in the medium for the synthesis of what is called actually this new strand. So these two are the new strands and these two are the parallel strands. So now this is one DNA molecule, a daughter DNA molecule, another DNA molecule, a daughter molecule. So in these two strands of this daughter molecule, one strand contains N15, another strand contains 14. So that is why it's called as a hybrid DNA having intermediate density. And likewise, here one strand having 40, another one is N50. So from this we can see it is a semi-conservative method. That is because you have one strand is a parallel strand and this is a new strand because it contains N14, that is the medium. From that one they extract N14 for the synthesis of a new strand. So from this one they came to just the conclusion that the method is a semi-conservative. So now what is happening? The next. So what will happen? This is after 20 minutes or after first generation, we are receiving actually altogether 100% hybrid DNA. Now what will happen after second? So first generation forming two molecules, all are hybrid. Now the second generation actually just, so after first generation, I am taking after second generation, after third generation, after fourth generation. This is after 20 minutes, this is after 40 minutes, this is after 60 minutes, this is after 80 minutes. So at the end of first one, we are receiving two molecules of DNA, all are hybrid. At the end of 40 minutes, we have formed 50%, that is two DNA molecules are hybrid and 50% of them what is called light. So here just let's actually just presume that out of 4 DNA molecules after 40 minutes at the end of second generation, let's assume there are 4 DNA molecules. Out of the 4 DNA molecules, 2 of them are light or just normal with the N14. The remaining 2 are just actually hybrid. So we have 50-50 in equal numbers. Then at the end of third generation, that is after 60 minutes, we are getting 8. Out of the 8, 2 of them are hybrid and 6 of them are N14 because there is no heavy nitrogen available. They are replacing only, they must use only N14. So this represents what is called 25% and then 75%. So 25% we have hybrid DNA and 75% we have what is called just the normal or light DNA. Now, after fourth division, we have received, for example, just 16 DNA molecules. Out of the 16, only 2 of them alone hybrid, and the remaining 14 of them are that is light. That means 12.5% of DNA molecules produced at the end of 80 minutes or after fourth generation just hybrid. The remaining just 87.5% that is light DNA or simply normal DNA with 10 OT. This is the analysis we'll see later on. Now, so the DNA that was extracted from the culture one generation after the transfer from N15 to N14, that is after 20 minutes, had a hybrid or intermediate and all are hybrids. Then after the second generation, we have received that actually the cells, the DNA. So out of the cells formed, actually the out of the DNA produced after just 40 minutes, we have only hybrid actually, sorry, after 40 minutes, we have received actually 50-50 probability, 50% of live DNA and 50% of hybrid. Then in the third generation, see, DNA extracted after 60 minutes, nothing but actually the third generation, after third generation, or just at the end of third generation. We have received the DNA molecules, there is just an example I mentioned, 8 DNA molecules. Out of these 8, 2 of them are hybrid equal to 35%. The remaining actually 6 of them are, that is the pure or light DNA with N14 constituting 75. Then after 80 minutes, that is after fourth generation, the data that was extracted and that was analyzed, that showed 16 DNA molecules. Out of the 16, we have only 2 alone hybrid equivalent to 12.5%, and the remaining just 14 represent what is called the light DNA, representing mainly about 87.5%, or we can say complete figure of 88. So, the same experiment was conducted with another material. Instead of using heavy nitrogen, they used radioactive thionein that was conducted by Taylor in what is called one beam variety, what is called the Faber beams, Vicia Faber. Instead of N, that is heavy nitrogen, they used radioactive thionein to confirm the semi-conservative replication of DNA. In all cases, out of the 2 strands actually in the dotted molecule, one strand of DNA is a panel strand, another strand is the newly synthesized one, and they have the labeling of either N14 or radioactive thymine. Now you see that one, the picture showing. So they were cultured in N15 medium. So 1 into 2, 2 into 4, like that cells are multiplied. So now from N15 medium, they are transferred to N14. Now they harvested the bacterial cells. Now this one, what is the nature of that one? From that one, they extracted the DNA by means of centrifugation on a density gradient cesium chloride. Now this is a cesium chloride density gradient. They have extracted what is called the DNA from the culture cells and then analyze the density of this DNA using this medium cesium chloride. So the different regions. So upper region, the middle one, the lowermost. So you see that one based on density gradient, we have the light DNA always above the cesium chloride. Now this is N15 having more density is at the bottom of what is called the cesium chloride centrifugation. Now this is a hybrid one just of intermediate density. So low density, high density, and the intermediate density. This is after first generation we receive only the hybrid. So we are receiving that one with intermediate density in the middle layer. And then after second generation, we have 50-50 probability. 50% of the DNA are hybrid. Now they just actually settled here, and 50% just in the above level, that is nothing but the low density level. This is intermediate density level, and this is what is called high density level. For that one, we are using what is called centrifugation in cesium chloride. We are taking the molecule and then add this one in cesium chloride and then centrifuging it, spinning it, and based on sedimentation constant, they get sedimented according to the weight. density gradient. Here not weights. Now this is an illustration. Now we are starting with actually N15. We culture the cells in N15. Then we are transferring it into what is called N40. At 20 minutes, we have received actually all the DNA molecules. All are hybrid. See one green, that is the density N50. Another one just the rose or pink and 40. Then after second generation, we received 4 molecules of DNA. I'm taking only the number of molecules of DNA, not counting the cells. And 2 of them are with N40 and 2 of them are hybrid. So 50% hybrid and 50% normal are like DNA. Now this is an experiment. So they are just culturing the cells N50, then they are transferring the cells into N40. They are finding that one, just what is happening. So replication N medium with 14, that is N40. So this is original DNA with heavy nitrogen. And this is transferred to just N40. Now we are getting 2 DNA molecules, both are hybrid. Then in the next generation, that is, this is after 20 minutes, this is after 40 minutes, we are getting 4 molecules, 2 of them are hybrid, 2 of them are light. And here after just 60 minutes, we are getting 8. You see that one, the middle rose colored one, 6 molecules with the light DNA, the remaining 2 with what is called heavy DNA. So the percentage is actually 75, 25. And the same one what it represents culturing here. So this is DNA with density gradient 100% N50. Then after 20 minutes we have hybrid, all hybrid 100%. After 40 minutes we have 50% light and 50% hybrid. And after 60 minutes we have hybrid, one is just 25% and then just light 75%. After 80 minutes we have hybrid form actually 12.5%, I represented 12%, and 87.5 and 40, that is equivalent to, that is 88. So these are the experiments conducted by them just to actually to exploit the process of a semi-conservative method of replication of DNA. So these are all the facts you have to remember. Now other things about actually that is related to the differences between RNA and DNA. So as usually you know that when DNA consists of 2 strands, RNA is found of only 1 strand. If you are taking the DNA, mostly it is found in the nucleus, a little bit in the cytoplasm. In contrast to this one, if you are taking RNA, it is mostly found in the cytoplasm, a little one in that is in the nucleus. Regarding the sugar, it contains deoxyribose sugar, and this one ribose sugar. Now the bases. So it contains normally you know that one, adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine. And this one contains cytosine, uracil as the pyrimidines, and the purines are adenine guanine, same to both. So normally as a general rule, the DNA replicates and this RNA does not replicate. And in most 100% of the individuals, it is acting as a genetic material, but it is not acting as a genetic material except in the viruses where we have the RNA as a genetic material. So as a general rule, normally the DNA doesn't take part directly in protein synthesis, but RNA takes place directly in protein synthesis. And this DNA dependent on RNA for protein synthesis. So these are all some of the differences between the RNA and DNA. So this is one part of the molecular basis of inheritance. I have to proceed the second part with reference to transcription and translation in the forthcoming classes. Thank you. Now the class is completed. Till then.